All right, so get ready because we're going deep on this one. You guys sent us a bunch of stuff about the pineal gland and higher consciousness.
All seen through the lens of the Law of One,
Oh, yeah, big time. So we've got like excerpts from the raw
and
material.
a scientific paper on the pineal gland itself.
Yeah, important combo for sure.
We're going to be looking at how the raw material, how it presents the pineal gland as a potential gateway to higher consciousness.
Right.
And then see how that compares to what science knows about this pretty fascinating little gland.
Okay, so for anyone who's not totally up on the law of one, basically it says everything's interconnected, right?
Yeah, stemming from a single source, the infinite creator.
Infinite creator, yeah.
And right at the heart of all that, that interconnectedness, is this concept that all is one, and that one is love light, light love.
Hmm. It suggests a pretty profound unity behind like all of existence.
Yeah, definitely.
And the raw material, where all this comes from, it's a channeled text, came through a woman named Carla Ruckert
Back in the 80s.
back in the 80s, yep. But let's change gears a sec and talk about the pineal gland, just from a scientific point of view. Like, what is this thing?
Well, physically, it's this tiny pine cone-shaped gland, way deep in the brain.
Hmm.
And as far as science can tell, its main job is to make melatonin.
Melatonin, right. So is that why some people call it the third eye?
That third eye thing, that comes more from esoteric traditions, not necessarily science.
Okay.
But it is true that the pineal gland, it is sensitive to light.
Yeah,
And that's part of how it controls our sleep-wake cycles.
makes sense. This scientific paper you sent, it uses some pretty crazy terms to describe the pineal gland. Something about neuroendocrine secretory circumventricular organ.
Yeah, sounds complicated,
A
right?
little bit.
Basically, it means the pineal gland, unlike most of the brain, it doesn't have the blood-brain barrier.
Okay, the blood-brain barrier. Remind me what that is again?
It's basically a shield that controls what stuff from your blood can get into your brain.
Right, right. So because the pineal gland doesn't have that barrier, what does that actually mean?
Means the pineal gland, it's more directly connected to the circulatory system than other parts of the brain.
Okay.
And that's where it gets kind of interesting when you think about what the raw material says.
How so?
Well, the raw material suggests that the pineal gland, it might not just be responding to physical stuff like hormones, but also picking up on subtle energies.
Oh, wow. So, and it's that direct connection to the circulatory system that could make it especially good at receiving these energies.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before we get too far into how the raw material talks about the pineal gland, we should talk about chakras.
Right. The seven chakras. I've heard about them, but to be honest, I'm a little fuzzy on the details. Could you break it down for me and for our listener, of course?
Sure. In a lot of spiritual traditions, including the Law of One, each chakra, it's like a swirling vortex of energy,
Okay.
and they're all along the spine, like from the base to the crown of your head.
Okay.
Each one vibrates at a different frequency, corresponds to a different color.
And each one's connected to specific aspects of like our being, right? So like emotions, physical health, even like spiritual awareness.
Exactly. The raw material specifically connects the pineal gland to the indigo ray energy center, which it calls the gateway to intelligent infinity.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So how does this gateway to intelligent infinity actually work? Like what's the pineal gland doing?
So, according to the raw material, the pineal gland, through that connection to the indigo ray, it's like a receiver and transmitter of higher energy.
Hmm.
It lets us tap into a much deeper level of understanding, not just about ourselves, but about the whole universe, really.
So almost like a cosmic antenna tuned to get information from beyond our normal perception.
That's a great way to put it. And the more active and decalcified your pineal gland is, the stronger that connection to intelligent infinity becomes.
Okay, I'm definitely following you, but before we get into how to activate the pineal gland, let's talk about what a fully activated pineal gland can actually do, according to the raw material.
That's a great question. Well, we'll get into that. So, about what a fully activated pineal gland can do,
Yeah.
the raw material suggests it can give you a stronger connection to your higher self.
Hold on, what exactly is the higher self here? Is it like some super evolved version of us?
Yeah, you could think of it that way. It's the part of you that exists at a higher level of consciousness,
Hmm.
often called a higher density.
Okay.
And it holds this deeper understanding of your true purpose and potential, like all that stuff.
So basically, a more active pineal gland, it speeds up our spiritual growth and evolution.
That's the idea, and it ties into another cool idea from the raw material, the idea of wanderers.
Wanderers. What are those?
The raw material describes wanderers as as souls that have incarnated on Earth from these higher densities.
Okay.
They came here with a specific mission to help humanity
Help humanity during what?
during its current transition
Transition to
to
where?
fourth density.
Oh, right, densities.
Remember how we talked about densities as different levels of consciousness?
Yep.
Well, the raw material says Earth, it's moving from third to fourth density right now. And fourth density, that's all about love, understanding, being more aware of how connected everything is, that kind of stuff.
Wow, okay. And these wanderers, you're saying they often have more active pineal glands?
Yeah, lets them tap into their higher wisdom, their purpose to help with this whole transition.
That's what the raw material says.
Yeah, it's almost like they've got a built-in advantage when it comes to getting to these higher levels of consciousness.
Huh. So maybe that's why I find all this stuff so fascinating. Maybe I'm a wanderer.
Maybe you are. It's definitely an interesting thought. But whether you're a wanderer or not, the raw material also connects a more active pineal gland to better healing abilities.
You mean like psychic healing, stuff like that?
The raw material doesn't really put it in terms of psychic powers, like in the way we usually think of it.
Okay.
They talk about these people they call crystallized healers.
Crystallized healers. Yeah.
They can channel energy through their activated pineal glands, and that helps them do healing both for themselves and for other people.
That's wild. This reminds me of something else from the raw material. They talked about pyramids, right? As like these energy focusing structures.
Oh yeah, the raw material. It says that pyramids were built using some pretty advanced stuff, like technologies and knowledge about energy fields.
Wow.
And they were designed for healing and spiritual practices.
Could there be a connection between the pyramids and the pineal gland? Like, what if pyramids were actually built to stimulate or activate the pineal gland somehow?
It's an interesting idea. The raw material does say that the stones that were used to build the pyramids, they were considered alive.
Huh.
And that they had this purpose of healing and the longevity of those in the area you know of as Egypt. Whether that's directly related to the pineal gland, I guess that's open to interpretation.
Okay, so maybe these ancient civilizations, they knew way more about what the pineal gland could do than we do now. But if it's such a powerful thing for spiritual growth and healing, why isn't everybody talking about it? Like, what are the challenges in activating the pineal gland?
Well, the raw material specifically talks about calcification. That's a big one. It's basically like a hardening of the pineal gland.
And that's often caused by like modern lifestyles.
Yeah, all the processed food, the toxins, the environmental pollutants, all that.
Yeah.
That can definitely be a part of it. But the raw material, it also emphasizes the impact of negative influences and not just like external stuff.
What do you mean negative influences, like bad vibes or something?
Think more like negative thought patterns and emotions.
Okay.
Fear, anger, resentment, all that. The raw material says that those things, they can create these energetic blockages that literally mess with how your pineal gland works.
So it's not just about what we put in our bodies, but also about the energy that we have inside us.
Exactly. Now, the raw material, it does go into some pretty intense stuff when it comes to negative influences.
Okay.
They mention psychic attacks,
Oh.
specifically from what they call the Orion group.
Whoa, the Orion group. Who are they?
The raw material describes them as this group of negatively polarized extraterrestrial beings.
Okay.
They want to control and manipulate people.
Okay, this is getting a little creepy. So how do we protect ourselves from these psychic attacks?
The raw material, it really stresses that love and positive intention. Those are powerful shields against any kind of negativity.
So basically, good vibes are our best defense.
Basically, yeah. If you work on having a loving and compassionate mindset, if you practice forgiveness, if you choose thoughts that lift you up instead of dragging you down, all that stuff, it raises your vibrational frequency, makes you less susceptible to those negative influences.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. But before we get into specific ways to activate the pineal gland, I want to go back to the chakras for a sec. So if the pineal gland is connected to the indigo ray energy center, do the other chakras have anything to do with all this too?
Absolutely. The raw material, it describes the chakras as all interconnected. They all influence each other.
So it's not just about activating the pineal gland, but about getting all the chakras in balance.
Exactly. The raw material says that a balanced blending of these energy centers, that's super important for spiritual growth and well-being.
Yeah, that makes sense. But what about this whole spiritual evolution thing? You mentioned Earth moving to fourth density. How do we actually get from one density to the next?
Well, according to the raw material, it's about learning the lessons that go with each density
Hmm.
and refining our vibrations so that it aligns with the next level.
Are those lessons, are they like unique to each person?
Absolutely. The raw material puts it this way. They say each time space is an analog of a particular sort or vibration of space-time.
Okay.
What that means is your journey and the lessons you run into, they're tailored to you,
Hmm.
to your specific needs and your soul's evolution.
Wait, time space. What is that? If each density has its own space-time, are we talking about parallel universes?
It's more like different levels of reality all existing together, like in the same overall framework.
Hmm.
Think of it like tuning into different stations on a radio.
Okay.
You can listen to different stations, but the radio itself is still the same radio.
Okay. Okay, that makes a little more sense. But are there challenges in getting to this fourth density?
The raw material does talk about some uncharacteristic anomalies, is what they call them, that come with this particular transition.
Anomalies. What do they mean by that?
Well, for one thing, there are beings already living on Earth who have started doing fourth density work.
Like the Wanderers.
Yeah, them and maybe others who are just naturally in tune with this higher vibration.
Okay.
But the thing is, the overall consciousness of the planet, it's still mostly third density. And that creates a kind of drag on the whole
It's
process.
like trying to drive a car with the parking brake on.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And the raw material also mentions the volatility of humanity right now.
Hmm.
All the conflicts and the negativity, we see all that. That makes it hard to say exactly when this transition to fourth density will actually be done.
Volatility. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty accurate word for how things are right now. But but there's still hope, right? The raw material talks about something called a harvest.
Right, the harvest. That's the point where the people who have aligned themselves with love and light, the ones who vibrate at a fourth density level, that they'll move on to that new reality.
Hmm.
But it's not a guarantee for everybody.
So it comes down to the choices we make, both individually and as a whole planet.
That's the core message of the Law of One.
Hey.
We're not just passengers. We're
Right.
we're active participants. We're creating our reality through our choices.
Okay, this brings up a lot of questions about what kind of choices we should be making. Like what can we actually do to align ourselves with this fourth density vibration?
That's a great question, and one that we'll dig into a little bit more.
So we've been talking about this shift to fourth density and how our choices are like super important in lining up with this new reality. But what kind of choices specifically? What can we actually do to raise our vibration and get ready for this whole shift?
The raw material, it really stresses that choosing love and light, it's not just some like vague idea.
Right.
It has to show up in how we think and how we act, in how we treat other people, all that.
So it's about making like conscious choices that are good, not just for us, but for other people and the world around us too.
Exactly. It can be like simple things, even offering a kind word to a stranger, standing up for what you believe in, putting your time and energy into a cause that really matters to you.
Yeah. Okay. But what about all the negativity in the world? It can feel pretty overwhelming sometimes, like it's pulling us all down.
Yeah, I get that. It's totally understandable to feel that way. But the raw material actually suggests that negativity, as tough as it is, can actually help us grow.
Help us grow. How?
Think of it this way. Negativity, it forces us to face our own dark side. you know?
Hmm.
It makes us make choices about how we're going to respond to all that darkness. It shows us where we need to to do some work on ourselves, to heal old stuff and let go of beliefs that are holding us back.
So instead of getting like sucked into the negativity, we can use it as a chance to learn, to grow, and to become like stronger in the end.
Exactly. And when we do that, when we grow as individuals, that helps raise the overall vibration of the planet. Brings us all closer to that fourth density reality.
Makes sense. But I got to ask, with all this talk about everything being interconnected, what about free will?
Mm.
If we're all like part of this one, how can we actually have free will? Doesn't that kind of contradict the whole idea of unity?
That's a really deep question, and the raw material it actually talks about that directly. They say that free will it's a fundamental part of how the creator designed things.
Hmm.
It's what lets us experience being individuals,
Yeah.
and make choices that shape how we evolve.
But if the creator knows everything, wouldn't it already know what choices we're going to make? Wouldn't that mean there's no free will?
The raw material suggests that the creator it experiences itself through us, through the choices we make, through what we go through.
Okay.
So even though the creator might have a big plan, so to speak, the details they happen because of how we use our own free will.
So we're all like co-creating reality with the creator through our choices. That's kind of wild.
It definitely shows how much responsibility comes with free will. What we choose, it doesn't just affect us.
Hmm.
It ripples out and affects everybody, the whole collective consciousness.
Wow. So we really do have the power to change the future, not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity.
That's the message, the hopeful message at the core of the Law of One.
Hmm.
We're not just along for the ride. We're active. We're creating.
Okay, so I'm starting to get the big picture here, but what about the people who choose like a negative path? What happens to them during this transition to fourth density?
The raw material it acknowledges that there are both positive and negative paths. They describe the negative path as focusing on serving yourself,
Okay.
often at the expense of other people.
So it's like a twisted version of the law of one, right? Instead of seeing that we're all connected, they're just worried about themselves.
And that's one way to look at it. The raw material, it calls this service to self. That's what guides the people who choose this negative path.
But how can that be a path to spiritual evolution? I thought it was all about serving others.
From the perspective of the Law of One, both sides, both service to self and service to others, they're both ultimately looking for the same thing, to know the creator.
Hmm.
They're just gunning about it in different ways.
So even the people on the negative path, they're trying to connect with the creator too. You've just chosen a harder way to get there.
It's a tricky idea and one that the raw material doesn't really go into a whole lot, but they do say that this path of negativity, it can lead to a kind of a dead end.
A dead end. What does that mean?
Imagine like hitting a wall in your spiritual growth.
Hmm.
You get stuck in this loop of selfish behavior and it leads nowhere.
Okay, so the negative path doesn't sound so great, but what about people who haven't really chosen a path at all? Like what happens to them during this hardest?
The raw material says that the people who haven't reached a certain level of polarization, meaning they haven't consistently chosen either service to self or service to others, they'll probably repeat third density, like in another lifetime.
So they get another shot at it, another chance to learn to make better choices.
Exactly. Every lifetime, it's a new chance
Hmm.
to face challenges, to refine our vibration, and to get closer to understanding who we really are.
It's almost like a cosmic school. We keep repeating the same grade until we learn the lesson.
Yeah, I like that. And with each go around, we learn more, we understand more, and we get a leap closer to the creator.
This is all so interesting, but it makes me wonder, what about when we die? What happens to our consciousness then?
The raw material, it describes dying as a transition to what they call time space. You could think of it as the astral plane.
Time space, is that like another dimension?
Yeah, you could think of it like that. It's this place of pure consciousness where we look back on our lives and get ready for our next time around.
And this happens no matter what path we chose, right?
Yeah, it's universal. Everybody goes to time space when they die.
But what about heaven and hell? Do those ideas mean anything in the Laws one?
The raw material doesn't really say yes or no to those ideas.
Okay.
They suggest that what we experience after death, it mostly depends on what we believe, what we expect, and the energy we've built up during our lives.
So if we believe in heaven, we'll experience something like heaven.
It's more complicated than that. Our vibration, the one that's shaped by our choices and what we do in life, that's what really shapes our experience after death.
So it's not just about what we believe, but about the energy we've put out into the world.
Exactly. And that energy, that's what determines the level of consciousness that we experience in time space.
That makes sense. Someone who lived a life full of love and helping others, they'd probably have a very different experience than someone who is like consumed by negativity. But it sounds like there's still hope for growth and redemption even after we die.
Absolutely. The creator's love, it's infinite. It embraces everyone no matter what they've done.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much.
Yeah, we have.
The nature of consciousness, the idea of densities, the potential of the pineal gland, the choices we make that shape our reality.
And it's important to remember this is just the beginning, really.
Yeah.
There's so much more to explore within the law of one and what it means for our lives.
Right. And we didn't even get to like specific techniques for activating the pineal gland, but there's tons of information out there if people want to look into that.
Yeah, for sure. Meditation, spending time in nature, working with crystals, those are all things people try.
So what's our final thought for the listener today?
As you keep exploring all this, just remember the journey is just as important as wherever you end up. Stay curious, keep your mind open, and trust your gut.
Beautifully said. And with that, we'll leave you to think about all the infinite possibilities that are out there. Until next time, keep searching, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.